Alrighty. Last part, here we go. And I must say, I shan't ever forget the extraordinary battle between good and evil that I witnessed here today. Good old Judge. The darkness that has blighted justice in our land these past 10 years has at last been dispelled. Thanks in no small part to the efforts of a bright young star from the east. Defense Counsel Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. On behalf of everyone here present in the Old Bailey, I give you my heartfelt thanks. You've not only revealed state secrets, you've deposed of the Lord Chief Justice. What are you going to do next?
I'm going to Disneyland!
Even though that's not been invented yet. You're too kind, my lord. The first time I faced you in court, just under a year ago now, I had the faintest of intimations that if British justice so warped and twisted over its long history was finally to know change, this might just be the man to do it. What? But at the time, I wouldn't allow myself to acknowledge the possibility. I couldn't overcome my hatred of the Japanese after the circumstances of my brother's death. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me to apologize for countless discourtesies on my part. You are a lawyer of boundless talent. Oh, Lord Van Zeeks. When I first arrived in Great Britain, I was literally a nobody. Certainly not a lawyer. The truth is, my fortunes have entirely been made by the miraculous people I've met. My best friend, Kazuma Isogi, who led me here to Britain in the first place. My loyal and ever-patient judicial assistant, Miss Suzato, who helped me study to become a lawyer. The brilliant Lord Van Zeeks, who never failed to challenge his Nipponese rival. And not to mention, the exceptional master of logic and reasoning, who showed me the true art of deduction, Mr. Sholmes. Saving the best for last, Mr. Naruhodo? Indubitably! What a relief! I'm well aware that without all these people's help and support, I wouldn't be where I am today. The truth is a guiding light that always leads to happiness. I've lived by that principle for a long time now, but actually, it's not true. The truth can also cause great pain, sometimes even leave people on the brink of despair. And for that reason, there are those who feel the need to hide the truth, who do it instinctively even. But as soon as we allow our eyes to settle on something other than the truth, the darkness takes hold. And from there, it grows until eventually, it makes us blind to the guiding light of truth altogether. So that's why it's my belief that we must all resolve never to avert our eyes from just what is just and true. Ow! So that we can continue to walk the straight and narrow path ahead. Well, I must excuse myself now. But before I go, Mr. Naruhodo, let me compliment you on your grand opus. What? Without your beautifully composed case against Lord Strongheart, Her Majesty would have been unable to act. Thanks to you and your fellows, the haunting undertones of corrupting Britain's justice system have been silenced. Thank you very much. And your painted-on outfit. Jeez. So until our paths cross again somewhere. Cheerio! Well then, it would appear that this long trial has finally come to an end. And don't you believe it? My apologies for any anxiety caused, my lord. I'm quite sure we shall meet again here in the courtroom before long, Prosecutor Barak Van Zeeks. In conclusion of these proceedings, I hereby declare the defendant, Barak Lord Van Zieks, not guilty. That is all. That is all. Court is adjourned. End game. 4th of November, 4:21 p.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. It really is all over. But did I sacrifice too much? Mr. Naruhodo, I really must congratulate you. It was a truly splendid performance. Honestly, I couldn't be happier for you. Thank you very much. But I really couldn't have done it without you at my side through it all, Miss Uzato. Oh. Your kind words mean so much to me. It really was a very splendid show, Naruhodo. I'd have thought you'd be smiling from ear to ear, but you look rather glum. Well, of course I'm delighted about the verdict. When exposing the truth, I'm afraid it caused my client a great deal of pain. I'm really not sure that's what a lawyer ought to be doing. Oh well, in that case, I'm quite sure that when you see Lord Van Zieks' smiling face, everything will seem much better. When have we ever really seen him smile? Exactly. Miss Uzato, everything seems worse. He has a face like thunder. Oh dear, I really shouldn't have presumed. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Almost a year it's been now since I first encountered you here in this very courthouse. For you to have risen to the level of excellence you've demonstrated today, well, it's quite remarkable. But I exposed the most impalpable truth you've ever imagined in court today. I feel as though I've robbed you of something you held so dear. What was it he said? To fight those who dwell in the darkness requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. But that was just the feeble excuse of a coward. Only those with a steadfast eye for the truth have what it takes to fight the dark forces of crime. You made fine work of establishing that fact in court today. Oh. Well, thank you. What magnanimous words. I'm quite sure that Kazuma-sama would have a smile on his face at this very moment if he were here. Kazuma? No. Of course not. Miss Uzato? There's another face like thunder here. Oh my! And he really was here. Lord Van Zieks. Allow me to congratulate you on your acquittal. Congratulate me? Or curse me? You failed to bring down the Reaper. I owe you an apology. No, it is I who should apologize. Your father, Genshin. If I'd been stronger, then perhaps. I made an unforgivable error of judgment. I can offer no excuse. And I can offer no forgiveness. That said, I suppose you fought for justice and the truth. For that, at least, I can't withhold respect. Your words mean more to me than you could know. I will hold them dear. Kazuma-sama. I must say, there's one thing that's still bothering me. What's that? The will that Lord Clan Van Zieks wrote before his duel with my father. Asogi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He's agreed to honor my final two wishes. The first is that this document survives, and the second, I cannot commit to paper. I've confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. So what was that second request? That your father agreed to honor, you mean? I think perhaps I might be able to shed some light on that. What? Father! It was 10 years ago, as you know. The day before the execution was scheduled. I went to the prison to say my farewells to Genshin. Why aren't you putting up more of a fight, Genshin? If you'd only agree to it, Seshiro and I would gladly petition the government. We've been through this already. You don't need to worry about me. Anyway, Eugen, I have a favor to ask of you. Something of great importance. You're one of my greatest friends, Genshin. Whatever it is, consider it done. I'm going to tell you an address. I need you to go there at once, in secret and telling no one. You should find a lady of the gentry in hiding there. A lady of the gentry? She's not in a good way, and she's with child. The birth is imminent. As a medical man, I'd like you to attend to her. Please, you're her only hope. By any chance, is the child yours, Genshin? Don't be daft. It's a favor that was asked of me by a man I knew, as his dying wish. My goodness. I swore to the man I would help. That I would do whatever I could for his wife and his unborn child. But if something should happen to me, I need to ask you that same favor. You're the only person I know I can truly rely on. What did you say? If something should happen to you? Tomorrow night, you're going to be... Hehehe. You never know, though, do you? What life will bring. Alright then. Tell me the address. I'll head there at once. With Seshiro and... No! Not with him. Pardon? This is a favor I'm asking of you. And only you, Eugen. Right. I see. Very well then. That very night, I caught a train from Paddington to Dartmoor in Devon. I found the old house in the middle of nowhere. It was an old hunting hound lay asleep in the grounds. The poor woman was on the floor at the back of the darkened room. She was in mortal danger. I broke her waters to precipitate the later before she weakened any further, but it was a torturous birth. I did everything humanly possible for her and her child. And in the end, I was lucky enough to welcome a new life into the world. But tragically, my efforts to save the mother's life were in vain. I held the healthy newborn girl in my arms and wept for longer than I care to remember. Eventually, in something of a daze, I looked around the room. There was precious little in it, but an old travel trunk caught my eye. It clearly had been well looked after over the years, made of top-quality leather with fine stitching. But it was when I saw the emblem on the side of it that everything dropped into place. B for Baskerville. Baskerville? You mean the woman was the wife of Lord Clint Van Zeeks? That's right. The newborn was his daughter. But that makes no sense. Why on earth wouldn't Clint have entrusted a child to my care in that case? I was completely unaware he even had a daughter. I suppose he didn't really have any choice. What? Well, your brother said he confessed everything to his wife, so she must have been beside herself with worry for her child. If the true identity of the professor were ever to be made public, the girl would be forever branded as the daughter of the infamous mass murderer. So the only solution was to distance the young girl from the Van Zieks family as much as possible. I don't believe it. I imagine that in his final hour, Lord Clint Van Zieks made the obvious choice. He would have thought to himself, this Japanese man here is someone I can trust. I honored my promise to Genshin, of course. However, only a month later, I was summoned back to Japan, and without disclosing the parentage of the child, I couldn't obtain permission to take her with me. Oh, how awful. I was completely at a loss. In the end, I had to ask my great friend. I asked him if he would be a father to her. That being Mr. Sholmes, I presume. Iris Wilson is actually Iris Baskerville. He took one look into my eyes and agreed to it on the spot. He is a heart of gold. Really, all it can be said I did for the child was to give her a name. When I come to Britain, I was trying to escape from the grief of losing my darling wife. So it was her name that I gave the little girl. Your wife's name, Professor Mikitoba? In other words, the name of my mother. Ayami Mikitoba. Oh! That's right, Ayame. Or in English, Iris. Iris. I had no idea. Ouch! Mr. Naruhodo, what's wrong? This little thing just pinched me on the behind through my trouser pocket. Hard! My dear fellows, can you hear me? Mr. Sholmes, is that you? Ouch! Yes, we can hear you. You see what excessive tugging can do? Let that be a lesson to you. Mr. Sholmes, we weren't able to thank you properly before, but you were simply marvelous. Your checkmate move was a stroke of genius. Indeed it was, wasn't it? I surpassed myself, I feel. It had become apparent to me that to stop the Lord Chief Injustice... Heh! That's a nice one. Would require such measures. Bruno, Susie, Iris. I'm so pleased. What a wonderful outcome. Her Majesty Queen Vicky said she thought my special blend was delicious. Lucky. I'm sure she did. After all, no one brews a more delicious tea than you do, Iris. Let's have a party to celebrate. And Mr. Reaper, you simply must come too. I'm afraid I couldn't. The Reaper of the Bailey, flustered by a 10-year-old girl? Who is his niece? No, really? Oh, pooh. But I give you my word that I shall present myself at your residence in the near future to express my gratitude. Oh, how lovely. You promised now, I won't let you forget. Bye for now, then. Alright, Iris. Thanks for all your help earlier. Oh, that was nothing. Just come back home soon. Ouch! One final pinch goodbye, was it? Well, I think I ought to be leaving. Lord Van Zieks, would you care to accompany me? Certainly. Mr. Naruhodo, allow me once again to express my deep gratitude to you. I believe you saved my life. Wait, Lord Van Zieks! Yes? What are you intending to do now? Well, clearly, I shall have to resign from the prosecutor's office. Oh no! I intend to publicize the full truth about the Professor case. Once that's done, the Van Zieks family will be ostracized completely from London society. Surely not. So as soon as I am free from my employment, I shall leave the capital. Oh, I see. Don't be a fool. Are those the actions of a man once feared as the mighty Reaper of the Bailey? I beg your pardon. For the past 10 years, you've endured that pseudonym and been cast as one of the dark forces yourself. Now that you've finally been freed from that disrepute, your battle is just beginning, surely. Well, I certainly never expected to hear those words from your lips. I've waited a very long time to come to Britain. And now that I'm properly here, I intend to learn all I can. Anyway, goodbye for now, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma Sogi. It seems as though he's really matured suddenly. He's not the only one who's matured, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, I think we should make our way back to Baker Street. We must help Iris with tonight's dinner. We must. Yeah, I got a birthday that I am actually helping with tomorrow. My dad's birthday. It was then that I came to an important decision about my future. The 4th of November, 6:25 p.m. I'm home! Guy! About time you got here. We've been waiting ages, Odo. What are you doing with that colorful piece of history? It's a party in it. Gotta go off with a bang. I mean, fireworks ideally. But when you ain't got fire, smoke's the next best thing, ain't it? There's a girl on Fresno Street who could help you with that, I think. Right. I'll remember that. You don't have to reload that thing every time I speak. You really must hear this. It's quite the most extraordinary thing. I assure you it will defy your expectations. Take down every detail now, Mikotoba. The world-famous great detective regaling his partner with the tale of his adventure. A sight to behold. Would you care to hazard a guess? Where do you suppose the fiendish runaway had concealed himself? Would you believe... Inside the trunk I found abandoned in his cabin. I would believe it, yes. I say, Mikotoba, I detect not a hint of surprise. I wonder why that is. Maybe because I was there at the scene as well, Sholmes. What? You were? Then why the deuce didn't you say so before? Not quite the sight I was expecting to behold, but still. It's hard not to feel privileged to see it. Hello, Mr. Sholmes, Professor Mikotoba. I'm back from the Bailey. But a moment too soon. A feast prepared by Iris and Miss Susato awaits. I must say, I haven't seen Susato looking so happy in a very long time. Runo, there you are. It is on the table, everyone. Please do come and take a seat. Excuse me. Time to fill me boots. Goodness, is that really true, Gina? Yep, I'm losing me copper's clobber and going back to what I know best. It's a diver's life for me. Aye, diddle-dee-dee, a diver's life for me. You're really leaving the police force, but why, Ginny? Well, the boss ain't around no more, so... Oh. And anyway, no matter how hard I try, a Reaper ain't never gonna accept a diver turned dick, is he? Well, people can change, you know. Ah, yes, that reminds me. I rather thoughtfully offer to relieve the bailiff of this now defunct piece of evidence. It's the inspector's pocket watch, and the crown has been reattached. That watch was his pride and joy, the symbol of his great achievements at Scotland Yard. For 10 years without fail, measured every second of that man's remarkable career. But now, it's stopped. Someone needs to keep the memory of Inspector Gregson's career alive, by taking on the great responsibility of winding that watch every single day again. Someone with an equally fierce detective spirit. It's gotta be me. There ain't no one else. Quite right. I mean, after all, the boss was... well, he was my boss. Yes, Ginny, he was. Oh yeah, and I made you a promise and all, didn't I, Iris? That I'd become a proper detective one way and track down your old man. Oh. Alright then, it's decided. I'll do it. And I swear, I'll find your dad and bring him back kicking and screaming. I'm not entirely sure that would be appropriate. Yes, I think, Gina, it might be best to, well... I think I'd like you to forget that promise, Ginny. Hey! Iris? Well, obviously I've always wondered about who my real daddy is. Of course I have. I wanted to know where I've come from. I thought it might tell me something about myself. But I've caused such a lot of trouble trying to find out, for so many people. Hurley, Runo, Professor Mickey. Oh no, not at all, my dear. Really, you owe no apology to anyone. Well, anyway, I've decided to give up on it. Because I finally realized my daddy is the greatest in the world. I don't think it matters what his name or where he's from. Don't you agree? Hurley? With every word, Iris. Thank you, Hurley. Thank you, Daddy. I think, Mikotoba. Yes, Sholmes. I think I ought to express my gratitude to you. Oh? For 6 years, you and I solved many a mystery together. And during that time, I remember countless expressions of gratitude for our good services. But a moment ago, I heard the most pleasing expression of gratitude of them all. And I should never have experienced it. Were it not for you. You old softy, Sholmes. But I must confess, it's a weight off my mind to hear you say it. Well then, I think this calls for a lengthy violin recital, wouldn't you say? Oh well, the food would go cold. That's the only problem. Maybe next week, Hurley. Are you sure a week is long enough, Iris? Ha 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 ha! Even amidst the most troubling of cases, even reeling from the most shocking of revelations, returning in the evening to this suite of rooms, there's always warmth and happiness to be had. The home of the world's greatest detective. Home, too, with my greatest family. .937. This attic room has been my home and office for almost a year now. I've certainly had some unforgettable experiences whilst I lived here. But I think now that time has come. Time to bid this place farewell. Naruhodo. Professor! Are you alone? I didn't hear any sound from Suzato's room. Yes, Suzato-san went out after dinner. She took a carriage. Something about an important matter she needed to take care of. Ah, I see. I wanted to thank you for what you did earlier. Oh? With Iris, I mean. When the subject of her father came up. Lord Clint Van Zeeks. I'm made up my mind many years ago never to tell her who her real father was. It's what we agreed with Genshin, after all. Lord Clint Van Zeke's final wishes before he died, you mean? I've had to take some rather drastic steps at times to protect that secret, you know. Calling Susato back to Japan 6 months ago, for example. That's why? When I read Sosuke-san's report about his final days in London, my heart nearly stopped. You'd stumbled across the crux of that terrible case, the dog's collar. The description of the Baskerville insignia left me in no doubt. Baskerville. If you decided to investigate that insignia, sooner or later, you'd have made the connection to the Van Zeeks. And to make matters worse, Susato knew of the unpublished story as well. The story that Iris had written based on my notes from the time. Ah yes, the Hound of the Baskervilles. Exactly. It was a work of fiction, but based on the grim reality of a huge beast of a dog being used as a murder weapon. A dog with the Baskerville family emblem around its neck. Armed with those two clues, I feared you and Susato might arrive at the truth. So I invented that story about having collapsed to justify her leaving London and returning to Japan at once. All in aid of halting any investigations you and she might have been contemplating. I see. Something I've never understood is why Susato-san came across that manuscript in Japan, though. You know Iris is the Hound of the Baskerville story, I mean. Sholmes sent it to me. That was before Susato left Japan. He was very troubled about what should be done about it, you see. I'd read it and carelessly left it on my desk, which is where Susato came across it, of course. It was the only case Sholmes and I ever pursued that I didn't record in meticulous detail. I was stunned when I discovered that young Iris had pieced together so much of it from my paltry notes. Sholmes and I discussed the matter and decided that we couldn't allow the story's publication. At that point, I returned the manuscript by post to Sholmes for safekeeping. So you did all that to stop Iris from finding out the truth about her father. That's right, because Sholmes had told me how astute she'd become. However, having witnessed events in court today, I must say my opinion is somewhat shifted. Oh? I think at some point in the future, the time will come for Iris to know the truth. And when it does, well, I believe it'll be for the best. I think so too. Actually, Professor, I wanted to talk to you about something too. Judging from that expression, I'd say you've come to a decision, haven't you? Yes, I have. I will be returning with you to Japan. Are you quite sure? I'm really only here as a substitute for Kazuma. But he's here in Britain now, as originally intended. Locum student Naruhodo doesn't really have a right to stay, I think. I see. Looking back now, when I first arrived here in February, my becoming a lawyer just seemed to be the way things turned out. With Kazuma, Susato-san, and Mr. Sholmes all gently pushing me in that direction. I spent the best part of a year immersed in this world, but always aware of a seed of doubt inside me. Until today. Standing in that courtroom earlier, all doubts vanished from my mind. I was totally focused. I was sure of my belief in my client. And I was sure I could see the trial through. And at the end of it, I finally realized no one else chose this path for me. I chose it myself. The path of a defense lawyer, eh? Yes, that's what I am now. That's what I'll be going back to you with you Japan as. And that's the path I'll be following for the rest of my life. Well, it sounds like you've made quite a resolution there. I have. Very well then. I must say, it's extremely welcome news. I shall make arrangements for your return first thing tomorrow, but don't imagine we'll be apart for a few days. Not with the symposium having been cancelled now. Such a shame. Never mind. I'm sure there'll be other opportunities in the future. Well then, I'll bid you good night. There's Susato. Susato-san? I just wanted to let you know I'm back. Did you, hear what your father and I were discussing? I'm sorry I did, yes. I couldn't help but... Oh, how much did you hear? Well, from the part about Iris's real father, I think? In other words, from the beginning. So you've made up your mind. You'll return to Japan and continue working as a defense lawyer. Yes. I'm sorry. I really should have consulted you about it. I did want it earlier evening, actually, but you'd already gone out. Oh no, that's quite alright. I already knew it's what you'd decide, Naruhodo-san. You did. Susato-san? Ah, yes? I suppose this means it. Has to be farewell soon. I suppose. You'll be a great help for Kazuma going forward. I mean, I know he's a brilliant lawyer, but he's new to the British courtroom. He'll certainly benefit greatly having a brilliant judicial assistant by his side. I'll do my very best. I wish I could say it, but I just can't. I can't ask her to come with me. After all, she was always supposed to be coming to Britain as Kazuma's assistant. It's growing late. We should both try to get some sleep. I'm sure you must be exhausted after today. Oh, shut up and kiss. You belong together. Before I retire, let me just say one more time. You really were quite splendid in court today. If you ask me, anyone who thinks of you as a substitute or a locum student should be ashamed of themselves. Susato-san. Thank you. Alright, here we are. The port of Dover. Quayside. I can't believe this day's finally come. You're really leaving then, Bruno? I'm afraid so, Iris. Thank you so much for everything. I don't know what I'd do without your I don't know what I'll do without your wonderful cooking and delicious tea. Oh, I wish you weren't going. But you have to come back and visit. Say you will. Of course, I promise. Well, it was a very brief union, but it was a pleasure to pursue a case with you again after so long. For a while at least, felt like old times. Yes, I suppose on reflection. But there's something to be said for it. Having a little fun once in a while. I'll just go ahead and say goodbye to the professor as well, I think. Alright, Iris, you do that. I'm not saying that.
Susato-san.
I've just checked, Naruhodo-san. Your luggage is already on board. Such a beautiful morning. Perfect for embarking on a journey, isn't it?
Before I set off, I'd just like to say how thankful I am for everything you've done for me. And give my warmest regards to Kazuma, please.
Actually, I think you ought to give him your regards in person, don't you?
Sorry? Ryunosuke.
Now my voice isn't that off.
What are you doing here?
Do you really think I'd miss my best friend's departure?
He's a knock deeper than me. Almost.
Thanks. To be honest, I'd been looking forward to our wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's capital. But,
Well, we'll have to save that for another time. Personally, I'm looking forward to facing you in court again.
me too. But, we're both defense lawyers, so,
I'm going to become a prosecutor. I'll stay in Lord Van Zeek's tutelage for the time being, but before long, I intend to be just as formidable as the Reaper himself.
Oh, I see.
Actually, Ryunosuke, I have a favor to ask.
Name it.
I'd like you to take care of this for me for a while.
Karuma? Why?
Because I've seen it now. I've seen what's inside me. The demon that reared its ugly head that day. It was only for the briefest of moments. The last time I came face to face with that inspector. But it was unmistakable. I wanted to kill him. I've always known there are demons that live inside people. And now I know there is one in me.
Yeah. They suck.
The fact that it very nearly consumed me is something I'll carry with me. Until the end of my days.
Yeah, why can't I get the lovely looking demons like Scanty and Knee Socks instead of the usual ones like anxiety and depression and all that? They suck.
While I devote my life to fighting those whose demons have got the better of them. As a prosecutor.
So, that's what you've resolved to do, is it?
Until I'm ready to face the demon within me. To slay it once and for all. I leave this in your care. If you'll take it.
Of course I will. I'll keep it by my side. Always. Until we meet again then. You have your path to follow, and I have mine.
Naruhodo-san? The path you're going to follow from now on. I wonder if I might follow it at your side, and unless I'd be a burden.
I mean, I would very much like you to come with me. But aren't you...
You're so predictable, Ryunosuke.
I am?
Honestly, you never change at all. But that's what I like about you.
You mean you knew about this?
It was the evening after Lord Van Zeek's trial came to an end. She came to see me at the prosecutor's office.
Really? Or when I had that conversation with Professor Mikotoba.
So, you go with Ryunosuke back to Japan?
Yes, I know it's unfair of me to follow my own interests like this.
Coming here especially to tell me. You're a stickler for etiquette, aren't you? Well, what are his feelings?
We've never discussed it, of course, and Naruhodo-san has made no such suggestion. I worry that perhaps I'd be a burden to him.
He's just as much of a stickler for etiquette as you are. He'd never say anything before he was asked. But I'd feel happy knowing you were with him. Look out for him on my behalf, will you?
Of course.
Susato-san.
What do you think, Naruhodo-san?
With you by my side, no trial would seem too daunting. So if you're willing, I'd be honored if you'd come with me. Together we can take on the world.
I'm terribly incompetent, but if you'll have me, I'd be delighted.
Oh, no, not at all. If anyone's terribly incompetent, it's me.
Ah! What's wrong?
Your luggage, Susato-san. There's no time. The ship's going to set sail any minute now.
It's all right. There's no need to worry. As it happens, my luggage is already on board too.
It is?
Your fine judicial assistant has everything in hand as always, I see.
Bruno! Your ship's about to leave!
Time to go then. Look after yourself, Ryunosuke.
Kazuma, draw your sword. One day, when our paths cross, once more, we'll fight a duel of words across the courtroom. A day I eagerly await as a lawyer.
I've been waiting to hear you say that, partner.
Don't forget me then, Kazuma.
As if I could, Ryunosuke.
And Mr. Schultz, thank you so much. I'm very much indebted to you.
Indeed, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe you are.
My voice for him wasn't all that off either.
I'll never forget all you've done for me during my time in London.
Quite. I should like to think you will remember your debt of gratitude. Especially when I visit you in your country. What? The truth is, although many are ignorant of the fact, the world is far smaller than most folk realize.
Well, I'd be delighted if you came to Japan one day.
Oh yes! We'd welcome you with open arms, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, that sounds wonderful! I can't wait!
In that case, let us conclude that this is to be merely a brief party, my dear fellows.
And that brings us to the end of my adventures in Great Britain. A peculiar twist of fate brought me halfway around the world those many months ago. But that was just the start of my journey. Who knows where fate will lead me next? Still, I'm confident this won't be my last meeting with the friends I've made in London. And when we're together again, no doubt the first words I'll hear will be,
game is afoot.
The ship, with our friends from the east, sailed steadily towards the distant horizon. But Sholmes' face was alight with joy.
The times may change, but a steadfast friendship will remain true.
We have but to gently
Close our eyes, and we are with our companions once more.
That's a nice touch.
So, I do just that. And when I do, I can hear his strong, familiar voice ring out.
Objection.
Objection!
Until we meet again, Bruno.
And that's the game. See you guys next time. I know I usually sit through the credits, but I can't do that because dinner's coming up. I've been thoroughly inundated with inquiries about my blah blah blah. So I will see you guys next time.